pray. So today I thought that we could talk about fasting. I don't know what do you guys know about fasting. So I thought like it might be good for us to just like have more like a dialogue and conversations, and then we can look at different passages in the Bible together. So which is why we all need to have Bibles, and then it's more like a dialogue since we're a small group. Yeah. Sounds cool? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let me pray. Loving God, a God who provides all the things we need, and God who also calls us into different spiritual practices and disciplines. And Lord, as we talk about fasting, would you guide us and would you teach us, God, and help us to have a deeper sense of understanding of your call for us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So yeah, I think it's good to start with like, what do you guys know about fasting, and like, I don't know if this church talks about it and whatnot.
A little bit.
I'm only fasted to draw blood.
I'm only fasted to get a colonoscopy.
Or surgery. Those are the only times
And
I've ever fasted.
And that's pretty bad, I tell you.
Like fasting from food, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
24 hours, that's like...
That's intense. That's very intense.
I feel like it is too. I've had to do it for surgery, and then after surgery they put you on a liquid diet. It just seemed like torture.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, have you ever fasted before?
Yeah, I would. Well, sometimes when I sleep in, I just, I'll just sleep.
It's fast, big friend.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I didn't eat today.
He's like, oh, food, that's too much
I
I
work.
just slept. Well, if you're sleeping, you don't need to eat.
After a tough night at work, yeah, I'll do that. That's my fasting.
Okay, like, oh no, what are we dealing with here? This group.
That's good to know.
We know we're supposed to give something up, for Lent,
Yeah. Do you guys do that?
I guess some people do. I think maybe some sock does. There's a few people that might.
He's fasted, like he said he doesn't even drink liquids.
I think that's.
Remember, I think we had that conversation.
I don't think
we were like,
that's not healthy.
Yeah, you should be drinking
You have to
a lot
drink
of water.
water.
I didn't do it.
You're sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could.
I just feel like working out and stuff like that, I don't know how I would fast. I would think I would have to give up working out to fast.
Well, when you fast, when you're not eating, you just don't feel like you can do that much.
Right, yeah.
Tired.
Like, people get tired when they're not eating. So, yeah.
Shaky.
Mhm. That's true. Okay, cool. Well, that's good to know.
That's so much for us.
I know, right?
Well, we can look at some passages from the Bible, and then like when we can talk about it. I think it's good because it sounds like it's not something regular, but I think it gives me an opportunity to talk more about what fasting is and could be.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's start from a passage from 1 Samuel 7:6.
Samuel, I don't think this is hundred.
Maybe we can read 5 to 6.
I'm sorry, First Samuel what?
Chapter 7.
Do you want to find Bible?
Seven.
Do you have another Bible? Same Bible? No.
You run back here, or there's one right there.
Thank you.
1 Samuel 7. Chapter 7, 1 Samuel. Can someone just read those two verses for us?
The first.
Chapter 7, verse 5 to 6.
And Samuel said, gather all Israel to Mizpeh, and I will pray for you unto the Lord. And they gathered together to the Mizpeh and drew water and poured it out before the Lord, and fasted on that day, and said there, we have sinned against the Lord. And Samuel judged the children of Israel in Mizpeh. And when the Philistines heard that the children of Israel were gathered together, The lords of the Philistines went up against Israel, and when the children of Israel heard it, they were afraid of the Philistines. That's it.
So it's pretty short, but I think they just basically like give us a snap of like what fasting could be. What do you see in this passage?
They sinned, so is it they're fasting because they sinned?
Yeah, that's what it's on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like they have sin and they need God's help, so they fast, and particularly asking God for help. Yeah. Basically, that's what that is. So that's like one way we know is like fasting is the purpose of like supplication, really asking God for help in some sort of way. That's one way. And then that's one thing. We'll look at different passages and to talk about what fasting is. So there's like, and we can all end a conversation about this. The next one is from Nehemiah, chapter 1 and verse 4. Nehemiah.
How do you spell that?
It's Nehe.
Oh.
And then Maya. And Maya.
Which verses?
What
Chapter
chapter?
1, verse 4.
Until,
This verse 4.
when I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Then I said, Lord, the God of heaven, the great and awesome God, who keeps his covenant of love with those who love him and keep his commandments, let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer your servants praying before you day and night for your servants, the people of Israel. I confess the sins we Israelites, including myself and my father's family, have committed against you. We have acted very wickedly toward you. We have not obeyed the commands, decrees, and laws you gave your servant Moses.
Okay, thank you. What did we see in terms of fasting in this passage?
Sounds like they sinned again.
Yes, I think in some
What'd you
ways.
say?
They sinned again.
Yeah,
they sinned again.
They're
yeah.
sinning.
Yeah. Which is, yes, I think I agree with that. But also in a sense, like they were fasting and praying and mourning. Like usually it's like something bad happens, so then like the Jews, they would like do this fasting, and fasting usually is connected with mourning, like sadness and like praying for something. And a lot of times it's a consequence of sin, like some sort of sin happened, whether that they did it or like other people has done to them. So fasting has to do with like mourning and like very sad time that they need to like pray particularly for the country, for their people. I have seen like people fasted for their family health. You know, I know someone who like fasted on a regular basis for her dad because her dad has cancer. And I'm not saying like it's like her dad is sinning, but just kind of like it's like some sort of thing that their family is dealing with. So she fasts on a regular basis. So like in a way of pleading to God. Does it make sense? Like so fasting has to do with like praying to God and seeking God's prayer, like in a very intense way of seeking God's help. Okay. Okay, we can read the next passage is from Esther 4:6. It's a little bit after Nehemiah.
Okay.
Or 16. Okay,
16.
Maybe from 15 to 17. Whoever. You, 15 to 17.
Help me read.
I'll read it. Then Esther told them to reply to Mordecai. Go gather all the Jews who are present in Shushan and fast for me. Neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will fast likewise. And so I will go to the king, which is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther commanded him.
Does anyone know the background story of Esther? Sort of like what's going on. So this is when Esther at the time she was a Jew and she was a queen in Persia, and like she was trying to advocating for her people, because at the time they were about to like give this regulation of killing all the Jews, or maybe not killing all the Jews, but basically arresting all the Jews. And so being a Jew herself, she was trying to figure out ways to save her people. And this is when that Mordecai, as her uncle, told her about like all these things is happening and asked her for help. So she knew she needed to do something to help her people. And so in this time, she's asking people to fast for her, and she's fasting herself too. And again, it's like in a sense of like she knows this is something very important, and she really needs God's help in this. And so that's why she fasted. So like in a sense where like fasting is again, it's like this like intense pleading and praying to God for God to help her. Yeah, so all three passages we read about, they all have to do with like getting God's help of like supplication in a very intense way, whether it's like because they have sinned or because they're mourning or because like they're doing something like that's so impactful yet so dangerous. And so like in all these places they fasted and prayed. So what does it tell us about fasting?
It kind of seems like it's saying that God will listen to you more when you're fasting. Or maybe you're praying more intently when you're fasting.
Yeah, it seemed like that. It seemed like, yeah, I think in some ways it does kind of like, it's almost like, yeah, it's like we're doing this extra prayer type of thing for whatever desire we have. But then like, fasting is also like not magical. Like it doesn't work every time, you know what I mean? We can read a passage from 2 Samuel chapter 12, 16 to 20. This is the story of David.
2 Samuel, what's the verse?
Chapter 12, 16 to 20. Maybe from 15 to 20. Yeah. Chapter 12.
After Nathan had gone home, the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife had borne to David, and he became ill. David pleaded with God for the child. He fasted and spent the nights lying in sackcloth on the ground. The elders of his household stood beside him to get him up from the ground, but he refused, and he would not eat any food with them. On the 7th day the child died. David's attendants were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they thought while the child was still living, he wouldn't listen to us when we spoke to him. How can we now tell him the child is dead? He may do something desperate. David noticed that his attendants were whispering among themselves, and he realized the child was dead. Is the child dead, he asked. Yes, they replied, he is dead. Then David got up from off the ground. After he had washed, put on lotions, and changed his clothes, he went into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he went to his own house, and at his request they served him food, and he ate.
Thank you. In this context, this is when David slept with Bathsheba, and like basically it's like, you know, that's Uriah's wife, and he basically took her and like had an affair with her and then killed her husband, and then she was pregnant. So like and the first one she was pregnant out of this affair, and because of this, God was angry with what David did. And so what God did in terms of punishment was to take the first child away, this child away. And so David pleaded and prayed and fasted like continuously. In this passage we see how he's like crying out to Lord so that the child would survive. But then in this passage is like we see how like fasting is not magic. It's not like just because we fast so that God will just listen to us even more. Like in some ways that fasting is almost like we putting our time and effort to pray to God, but it doesn't mean that it's a way to control God or to bargain with God. Does it make sense? Yeah, so ultimately God's will, it's God's will. Okay. Okay, so we'll talk about like other like regular practices. So in the Old Testament, we see all these are in Old Testament, and then in the Jewish tradition, fasting is a very normal thing. A lot of prophets, they do that on a regular basis. And Jesus did it himself too. Like when Jesus started his ministry after he got baptized by John, he went into the desert and he fasted. Like that's where, you know, he started his ministry with this like self-denial. It's like starting with fasting. Fasting has to do with self-denial, denying our own needs, denying our basic needs in some ways. And so we see how like Jesus practiced that himself when he began his ministry. But then he also said, I should say it, the Bible also tells us like don't make fasting as something that we wanted to boast about. In Luke 18, and you don't have to flip this, or you can if you don't want, but I can just tell you. So in Luke, it also talks about the Pharisees. They were boasting about themselves, right? The Pharisees, they would say, oh, I fast like twice a month. I'm not like those sinners over there. You know that passage where like there's a Pharisee and then there's a sinner, and then like the sinner's like, Lord have mercy. But the Pharisee was like, well, look at me. I mean, I pray on a regular basis. I fast twice a month. I'm not like that sinner over here. Like, it's almost like he feels like he can bargain with God more and he has more chips to